Hello, and welcome to Reaching Generation C Through Big Data, a one-to-one media Take 30 webcast sponsored by Ravana. I'm Mila D'Antonio, Editor-in-Chief of One-to-One Media, and your moderator for today's event. Today's speaker is Dennis DeGreger, Worldwide CRM Executive at HP. Welcome, Dennis.
Thank you, Mila. Great to be here. Looking forward to an action-packed 30 minutes.
I am too. Thanks for joining us. So before I review the agenda, let's go over the On24 interface. If you have a question for Dennis, please click the Q&A icon. If you encounter any technical issues at all with the system, please click the question mark for a list of FAQs. Please turn off all pop-up blockers because there will be a survey during the Q&A following the webcast, and we'd encourage you to participate. All attendees will also receive an email with a link to the archived version of this webcast. Finally, if you're tweeting, our hashtag for this webinar is One-to-One Media. So let's move on to today's agenda. Dennis and I will discuss the connected generation, known as Generation C, and how they're making big changes to enterprises' customer engagement models, best practices for harnessing the power of big data to optimize the engagement with customers and create a unique experience, and the use of analytics to make enterprise data relevant, quantifiable, and actionable. So let's get started. So Dennis, the pervasiveness of smartphones has really birthed a new generation from paying bills to making dinner reservations. The connected generation, more widely known as millennials, they use their smart devices for just about everything. In doing so, Generation C is generating overwhelming amounts of big data, creating an enormous potential for companies to change the way they do business. By successfully collecting big data from these channels, using sophisticated analytics, and then acting on that data, companies have enormous potential to create a truly differentiated experience. So with that said, Dennis, in your experience, what does Generation C look like, and how is this generation really changing the way companies view big data?
Great, Mila, thanks. The way Generation C looks, and this is important to understand, is that the Generation C classification is a psychographic classification. It transcends our traditional demographic segmentation that we, as marketers and CRM executives, we all use in our businesses. If you look at traditionals, age 75 plus, boomers 56 to 74, Gen X 40 to 55, Gen Y or millennials 20 to 40, Gen Z, post-millennials age 18 to 20. The way that we look at Generation C at HP from a targeting one-to-one perspective is that there's a sub-segment core of what we call digital natives. And even though Generation C can transcend any age group, but they tend to cluster in the younger age groups, and that 18 to 34 age group or digital natives grew up with technology. And they look at the world through their mobile device lens, through their tablet lens, and through other devices. So what's occurring, and we can talk more about this in the 30 minutes, there is a blurring of channels that are taking place. It's becoming less about channels to Generation C because those are internal constructs that we use to distribute service and products. It's becoming more about the device and the network. And by the network, I mean the CRM 360-degree views, the information and the analytics, the business rules that flow through that network that create a one-to-one targeted service, marketing, or selling experience. So the digital native, subsegment, if we're talking about what they look like, they love content creation and mashing. They tend to form active communities versus being passive. They gravitate towards social sites that encourage open discussion on cultural issues as well as economic issues. They desire to be in control of their own lives. They're content with complexity. They have a tendency to work in more creative industries. So this is a whole attitudinal descriptor, and the exciting part about big data and what we're discovering at HP is we're able to actually deliver on that holy grail of CRM, which is combining the attitudinal, the behavioral, the demographic segmentation in such a way where we get a total view of that consumer's intent. And that is the opportunity that big data represents. So we're really excited about that at HP.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like Generation C is really changing the way that HP looks at big data as a whole.
It absolutely is. The questions that we're asking ourselves at HP from a strategic perspective is, number one, how do we capture, measure, and take advantage of every customer interaction in the channels, including social and the global web? How do we integrate the social channels transparently into our own company channel matrix so that the interaction looks transparent and seamless to the customer? And the model that we are pursuing is that model of device to network, which makes the consumer the ability to access the information they need for pre-sale service, information gathering, pricing comparison, networking with peers in crowdsourcing models, actually making the purchase, and then obtaining post-sale service. We seek this model we call transparency. So we are also concerned with gathering real-time intelligence across all the touch points to deliver personalized service, the loyalty, the offers, and the targeted advertising and content that as CRM execs we all seek. And most important of all, just when you think big data is new on the scene, at HP we're concerned more with small data, which is taking big data and converting it through new emerging technologies and analytics into small data, which is the targeting data we need at the touch points for service, sales, and marketing that is relevant and timely to our end user consumers.
It sounds like HP is really prepared internally to harness the data that this generation outputs and the opportunities that this data offers them. Would you say that other companies are as ready?
Well, organizational readiness, I wouldn't say, by any means that HP, has achieved level 10 in organizational readiness. The social dynamics and the dynamics of managing Generation C is a constant learning loop. But the good news is, we put the dynamic learning loops in place so we can understand what is this consumer actually saying to us versus what are our traditional 360-degree view analytics telling us. One of the most interesting conundrum that we've encountered is if you look at traditional direct marketing and targeted marketing and the analytics that support those, recency, frequency, monetary value, propensity, scoring, etc., what we are finding is that the next logical actions, the next logical products recommended by our statistical systems are quite often divergent with what the consumer is telling us in social. And reconciling that gap by converting big data to small data and then appending the small data to our existing 360-degree view so we get a virtual, social 360-degree view of Gen C is really where we're investing our time and resources.
Right. The social aspect is important there, as you mentioned. Generation C they're known from skipping from channel to channel, and social is an important channel to this generation. Can you set the stage in terms of how companies or maybe HP is interacting? How this generation is interacting with a typical company?
Yeah, absolutely. The channel aspect, or I think more accurately, the touch point aspect. Because you can have multiple touch points within channel depending on how the consumer is accessing. But the issue is this, as we see it from a business rules perspective and process perspective, with the objective of generating more loyal customers that we can sell more to. The way we see it is for Gen C, you have to be able to begin an interaction in one channel and complete it in another. That's absolutely critical. The second most critical issue is first contact resolution. We all know as CRM execs that first contact resolution is a primary driver of customer loyalty, if not the primary driver of Net Promoter Score and other loyalty measures. And we seek to always engage in first contact resolution. And the issue with Gen C is they see first contact resolution different than other non-Generation C segments. The way they see it is, I want my question answered real time while I'm in this session. The days of transferring to a supervisor, the days of let me call you back, the days of take a look at this link are kind of behind us. And so back to your question about organizational readiness, the real challenge is taking all these great new emerging big data and analytics technologies that allow us to do new unprecedented things and training, compensating, and motivating the humans that are touching our customers in the human channels, and also equipping the self-service channels where the interaction with the consumers by machine. The optimization of that information flow and our interaction with consumers accessing us across touch points is really our objective, our goal, our holy grail that we've identified and are investing in.
So because they view that first contact resolution differently, then have you also had to adjust your metrics?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's interesting you bring that up. I've been seeing some noise floating around about, some companies have reconsidered their investments in social and are de-emphasizing some of those investments because they're not getting a clear and measurable ROI. And I think that the smart companies are understanding that there's a whole new set of metrics. And I know we're limited in time, but our top 10, the way we look at Jenny C and the social access touch point is number one metric, social media leads. How many quality leads can you generate, identify, act upon, route to create both affinity to the brand, measured by whatever metric you use, NPS, customer effort score, whatever, and also how many sales are you making? Number two, engagement duration. Engagement duration and the outcome of the interaction is critical in driving brand equity metrics. Bounce rate. Are your customers coming to the site from other social media sites then immediately leaving, or are they staying because you've engaged them either with a machine prompt or with a human chat interaction that makes them stay, makes them get the information they need, helps them buy, helps them obtain post-sales service. Membership increase. People joining your loyalty program directly from social is really a key metric, because what that's telling you is that Generation C is flowing into your loyalty program, which is probably what you want in order to get the ROI that management is expecting. Activity ratios. Are these customers you're sourcing from social media, are they active or are they just latent and passive? Conversions is a key metric. Brand mentions in social media, another key metric. Virality. Are your consumers sending links about your brand? Are they acting as influencers for the brand and net promoters for the brand? Can you measure that and see that in their interactions? The answer is, with today's new technologies, new generation of technologies, both hardware and software, that have been designed to extract big data value, you can do it. So, great.
Well, it sounds like HP is really looking at the customer experience with a real analytical eye. So thanks for explaining that. Can you also offer to our audience today, Dennis, how companies and maybe HP, how they're making changes to their company's customer engagement models to respond and engage with this generation?
Yes, absolutely. I think that Jenny C, as we touched upon, has different expectations for the experience than the last generation CRM model is capable of providing. And what that means, if you're a CMO or somebody who controls investment and resource budgets, where you want to de-emphasize your investment is in last generation CRM technologies. Database is a good example. Traditional relational database systems cannot manage the amounts of big data. They can't sift through the billions of interactions flowing through the social sphere and the internet. They can't store them. There's a whole new generation of warehouse technologies that have emerged. The old marketing data mart ecosystems can no longer provide us the analysis platforms we need to create insights from big data. because the unstructured volume and velocity of big data is so immense that a whole new generation of technologies have emerged to tackle that issue. So that's where, if you're a CMO, you should probably be looking at focusing your budget.
Great, thank you. Can you also, Dennis, provide us with some best practice examples of companies that have harnessed big data and have been able to optimize its engagement with Generation C, basically a company that's turning big data into big value?
Well, I think a great example of that is HP. Ourselves, we're working really hard on cracking the code with Generation C, and if you look in our Twitter feed, if you were to go into the HP corporate Twitter feed right now and plug in HP, you would see very dynamic discussions going on with consumers about product features. You'll see HP employees taking recommendations from consumers real time on how to change product features. You'll see them getting links to consumers so they can go to the right place. You'll see them providing discount information. It's very dynamic and very, very lively place. And what we're finding is that in terms of post-measurement against those individuals and personas that interact with us, we're finding increased satisfaction rates, measurable increases in satisfaction rates, measurable increases in cross-sell rates, and so forth. And there are also a couple case studies out there that are floating around now from a telco in Europe, which is public domain. It's a company called Orange Telecom. You might want to look that up. It's a great case study about how companies are extracting a value from big data and applying it to their interactions with customers.
Great. We'll have to look that one up. You have a lot of great advice. You provided a lot of great advice today, Dennis. Can you offer any additional advice for companies that may be struggling to reach and target Generation C?
I think the best advice and the way we look at it at HP is you've got to understand how you're using social media so you don't end up wasting valuable time and resources. The way that we have organized our what we call business use cases is across 4 business cases. Sentiment analysis, what are people saying negatively, positively, neutral about the HP brand. Number 2, brand reputation management or brand defense. If somebody is posting negative about an HP product or an HP brand, we intervene proactively and get the consumer or prospect the correct data, the correct links they need in order to make informed decisions. The third is first contact resolution. Driving loyalty through first contact resolution, real time if possible, is a key business use case. And then the fourth, probably the most important for management and for funding of social initiatives, is revenue optimization. How do you cross from service to sales? When do you cross from service to sales in this interaction with Gen C? How can analytics guide you? It's very, very, very important topic because that is where you can go back to management and say, look, here's the return we're getting on the capital we're expending on social media. So that's kind of the way we look at it across those 4 business use case scenarios.
Right, and if you're interacting mostly with Generation C in the social media channels, crossing from service to sales might be tricky.
Yes, crossing from service to sales is tricky because the nature of social media is that typical social users don't want to be sold. They don't want to be approached. They don't want to engage in a push one-to-one marketing sale in most cases. And I think that speech recognition analytics, text recognition analytics, if you're in chat, are very valuable to giving you the context of the interaction. And at HP, the way that we see the web and analytics is we have moved rapidly from Web 1.0 to Web 2.0. Web 2.0 is the emergence of widgets and blogs and places where you can see what Generation C is saying. The new model, Web 3.0, is what we refer to as the contextual web. And there are technologies emerging now where we not only know what the consumer is saying about the brand, negative, positive, or neutral, but we are able to set the context of the post. We can actually look at other posts and say, for example, this person is posting about this product feature because there was a recall on a particular product. So knowing that context is the most valuable thing a marketer can have, because then they can engage in contextual-based marketing off of the service interaction and know when to cross from service to sales using analytics instead of a push selling model.
Right, and driving them to their preferred channel to make that sale.
Giving them the options versus driving is a key distinction, because some consumers are high touch, and high value consumers, high lifetime value consumers. You don't want to proactively attempt to migrate them to non-human channels if they've expressed an obvious preference through your interaction systems to engage with humans, because that's just counterproductive.
Right, and you'll lose them.
Correct.
So, Dennis, to wrap up the Q&A with you and me, what trends do you predict we'll see in the coming year with how companies prepare for and interact with Generation C?
I think, the big trend is investments in big data are going to hockey stick as more customers understand the value of processing these massive amounts of unstructured data and converting the seeming chaos in the social sphere and the web into actionable service and marketing rules. So that is one trend that will continue to gain steam. The other obvious trend is mobile. Mobile cannot be ignored. Devices are emerging, applications are emerging that allow CRM execs, for example, to manage their business rules from remote locations. So, and understand what's happening through understanding from dashboards what the sentiment analyzers are saying, what the analytics systems are saying in terms of converting that sentiment into actionable business rules can be adjusted on the fly. So, mobile is where we're placing a lot of big bets at HP.
Well, it sounds like you're in the right area, and I would also add to your earlier point, Dennis, that it's not just about the big data, but also focusing on that small data too.
Yeah, and exactly, Mylan, to just kind of wrap up that point, to us at HP, it's about BSMAC, big data, social, mobile, analytics, and cloud. And from a resource allocation perspective, we're organizing our investments accordingly, to extract the opportunity from mobile and social.
Great. So thank you so much, Dennis. It's time now to kick off our Q&A with the audience. First, a few reminders. If you'd like a PDF copy of this deck, click the Download Presentation button at the bottom center of your screen. If you miss any part of the presentation or want to see it again, everyone will receive an email with a link to the archived version. I'd like to remind everyone about the survey posted during the Q&A period next. Please take a moment to participate, and you'll need to turn off your pop-up blockers to enable that survey. So let's begin. To ask Dennis a question, click the Submit Question button in that lower left-hand section of the presentation window, and if we don't get your question, we'll email you a response after this webinar. So the first question is, how does an organization want to better engage with Generation C get started? How do they get started on their engagement strategies with Generation C?
I think one way, and this depends on whether you're B2C, B2B, high volume, low volume CRM group, but the way that we started at HP, and we're both B2C and B2B, is we looked very closely at the sentiment analyzer technologies and what we could do with that from a business process and customer engagement perspective. So we started understanding what consumers were saying about us, and then we set up various prototypes, rapid cycle prototypes, to say, okay, let's take this interaction and let's move it through the company and see if we can create a more satisfied customer, a net promoter, or a sale. And start small with rapid cycle prototyping, and then get the results of that, and then use those results to build a bigger business case for management to say, look, this is paying back. Let's invest more, and here's how we want to invest. And then your line of sight from a strategy perspective becomes the other three business use cases: brand reputation management, brand defense, first contact resolution, and revenue optimization, crossing from service to sales, and customer retention and loyalty. So I would build, along those lines into a bigger investment case.
Great. We have another question. Does an organization need to get rid of traditional CRM programs to engage with Generation C?
I don't think so. I think a lot of it, again, back to B2C, high involvement products versus low involvement products, all the good consumer marketing considerations. The answer may vary a little bit, but traditional CRM platforms, and you guys all know the names, they were the first generation platforms that were out there. They are not geared for the pull model that Generation C demands. Because Generation C is in control. They initiate the interaction. They decide which touch point and when and where they're going to begin, where they're going to conclude. And last generation CRM platforms are not set up, either from a desktop perspective, from a multi-channel integration perspective, from a database capability and analytics environment perspective to address this real-time interaction. So I wouldn't say that the next generation of technologies replaces. I think it augments, number one, but what I'm seeing a lot of in the marketplace is I'm seeing a lot of companies moving toward the next generation capabilities, hardware and software, with a migration plan to retire or sunset their last generation CRM platforms. Great.
We have one more question from Joanne Lyons. She would like to know the name of that company again in Europe that would be worthwhile to look up, and it was Orange
Telecom. Yeah.
Telecom, right. Okay. All right, and I think that's it for our Q&A. So thank you so much to Dennis DeGregor, and thanks to everyone for joining us today. Unfortunately, we're out of time, and again, all unanswered questions will be addressed via email. This concludes Reaching Generation C Through Big Data, a one-to-one media Take 30 webcast sponsored by Ravana. On behalf of the entire team, thanks for attending and have a great day.